Good morning, everyone. Today, inshallah, we'll start the unit 7 in the close-up book. It's called Extreme Situations. Let's start with the reading. Breaking news. Thursday, October 12, 1972, Flight 571, carrying Uruguay's championship rugby team, took off from Montevideo, Uruguay, heading to Santiago, Chile. On the plane were 45 people, the crew, the Uruguayan players, and their friends and relatives. Soon after takeoff, the plane had to stop in Mendoza, Argentina, because of bad weather. Friday, October 13, 2:18 p.m. Flight 571 took off again, heading for Santiago. Friday, October 13, 3:20 p.m. About an hour into the height, the pilots began the descent into Santiago, not realizing the plane was still close to the high peaks of the Andes Mountains. So, here we are going to read an article about what happened to the passengers on Flight 571. Survival in the Andes. On Friday, October 13, 1972, a plane that had been flying from Uruguay to Chile with 45 people on board crashed. Crashed, it means it fell down and it is ruined. It turned into pieces, into a mountain in the Andes. How some of the passengers managed to live is one of the great survival stories. So, what we will read about is how this plane fell and how the passengers survived, though it is very hard. It's near to impossible. 29 people died in the crash, and the weeks following it on the mountain, it was freezing cold, and the survivors stayed inside the crashed plane to stay warm. They had very little food and were in very great danger while they waited for a rescue team. So they were waiting for a rescue team, and they had nearly nothing. They were freezing cold, and it was so dangerous, and they had little food. After 11 days on the mountain, they found a small radio on the plane, and they heard the news that the rescue teams had stopped searching for them. All hope was gone. They were alone and terrified. They found the radio, and they heard something that the rescue teams, they gave up hope. They're not gonna search for them no more, so they must depend on themselves, and they were frightened, terrified. Days became weeks. 2 months after the crash, after they had waited for summer to arrive, 3 of the passengers, Roberto Canessa, Nando Parado, and Antonio Vicentin, left to search for help. Each man wore 3 pairs of socks, because it was very cold, with a plastic bag around each foot to keep the water out. Boots, 4 pairs of trousers, and 4 jumpers. Many of the clothes were from the people who had died in the crash. So as we can see, it's so hard to take off the clothes or the shoes or the socks of a dead person to be able to survive. It's not something easy. They also took with them a large sleeping bag that they had made. Only they could save the others now. They are the only hope. How did these brave young men cope with the journey? None of them had climbed mountains before, and it was hard. They climbed very dangerous, icy peaks, trying to reach the top of the mountain. Some days later, exhausted and cold, they were so exhausted, so tired, they reached it. They had imagined these moments for days. On the other side of the mountain, they wanted to see a valley below that would take them out of the mountains. So they were reaching for a valley, just to find a path, to find somewhere to go out of the mountains, to reach some place which is not so high. But instead of a valley, they saw more of the same snowy peaks. More ice, more snow, more high mountains, more peaks. Lots of them. They weren't near the end of the mountains. They were in the middle of them. What could they do now? Let's see. So as you can see, peak is the top of the mountain. Exhausted is very tired. Valley is an area of low and between mountains, often with a river through it. Ordeal, a very painful or difficult thing. So, but there was still hope. Prado saw two low peaks about 65 kilometers away that didn't have snow on them. They found hope again. One of them, he saw two low peaks, not so high. The peaks were about 65 kilometers. It's not that short distance. It's really long. But they must go. If they could get there, they would be out of the high Andes. But to reach the peaks, they would need to walk for more days, and they didn't have enough food. But Prado had a solution. Winston could return to the plain, and he and Canissa would take his food. They agreed on the plan. So they made a plan. One of them must go to the plain so they can take his food. They can take his food for themselves to be able to walk more and more to find a valley. And Canissa and Prado continued the journey. As they walked, the area around them slowly began to change. The men discovered a small river. The sun was warmer. After a few days of walking, the snow had disappeared completely, and the flowers were everywhere. They were kind of happy in some place inside of them, because finally they saw water, flowers, sunny places. This is the valley, Canissa said excitedly. Excitedly, he was so happy, so excited that maybe and only maybe they will survive. This is the way out. Soon they saw a few cans on the ground and some farm animals. They saw some farm animals. They were happy because the place you will find animals, 100% you will find life, because animals cannot survive without water, without food, without grass, without sun. So in the middle of their souls and their hearts, they knew in somehow they will be rescued, or they will survive. They will make it. Let's continue. In a field, they know there must be people somewhere nearby. On December 21st, after 10 days, the exhausted men reached the town of Los Matins in Chile. Finally, they made it, and they found a town. And a rescue team went to save the other passengers high up in the Andes. When they went to the town, for sure people helped them. They fed them, they gave them water and everything, and they heard about the trip and what happened, and about the other passengers, and there are still passengers there, and maybe they're still alive. So they sent a rescue team. What had happened to them? Fortunately, they had all survived as they waited for the others to get help. The memories of the crash in the Andes would be with them forever. But their ordeal was over. They had made it out alive. Let's go back to see what the meaning of ordeal, just to know it more. Ordeal is a very painful or difficult thing. So, in this lesson, we can see, even if you are in a very rough and hard situation, but you still have the will, you still have the hope, you're still hoping for a better tomorrow, for a better day, that everything is going to be okay. You will make it. When you promise yourself that you will live for one more day, that you can do it, that you are a survivor, that you're brave enough to make it through the sun one more time, you can do it. Never lose hope, never give up. If you're willing to do something, if you want to do something, do not ask too much about it, or do not talk so much about it. Just go and do it. Nothing is impossible in this world unless
you're thinking about it as if it is impossible. Because what we just read, it was so hard to imagine even to be in a place like this with no food, no water, no shelter, not enough clothes. It's really even impossible even to imagine me, you, or anyone else in this situation. But when you have a strong will, you're willing to do something, believe me, you can do it. Thank you very much. Hope you enjoyed the lesson. See you soon.